Alright guys, you're welcome to Crown Fit Television. As usual, my name is Adeyemi Adeoye. So for the first time, permit me to share my view on the ongoing difficulty that Nigeria is currently experiencing. And that is talking about the issue of the cashless policy that the CBN is trying to implement and how it has brought untold hardship on the citizen of the country, especially the poor masses. Now, to understand the situation better, we have to go back to how the whole thing started, the whole policy thing, and how it began to affect, the general public. It all started when the CBN of Nigeria decided to have the 1,500 naira and 200 naira denomination of Nigerian naira currency redesigned. Now, for those of you watching, especially those that are non-Nigerians, it might interest you to know that in time past, when the citizens have had to, start using a new note, anytime a policy like that is about to be implemented, the majority of the citizens oftentimes look forward to having the new note in their hand, because they like to see what the new redesigned naira currency looks like. Now, this whole problem started after CBN made the announcement that they are going to have those denominations that I mentioned earlier redesigned. And lo and behold, when the new redesigned currency came out, the people were anticipating the new redesigned naira note that the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele announced will be introduced into the Nigerian economy. And lo and behold, the money was actually introduced. But the shocker to every Nigerian was when they finally saw the money, there was nothing redesigned about the new note. It was still the same template of the old note that is about to be faded out. Now, the new one is even worse, because in terms of quality, as you must have seen, the newly redesigned note was peeling. The quality of ink that was used to print it was not as good as the old one. And then, like I said earlier, there was nothing redesigned about the new currency. It was still the same old design, but this time around with a more fancy ink, looking more or less like a fake currency. Now, with the whole ugliness of the new currency that was printed by Godwin Emefiele, the people were not impressed because of the low quality of the currency. And this brought a kind of this made the people to have a lackadaisical. This made them not to see the reason to want to exchange their old notes for the new one that the CBN said they designed or they just produced, because the quality was nothing to write home about. It was nothing at all to write home about. The design was looking as if it's a fake currency. Now, because of this, like I said, the people were not willing to go and exchange their old notes for the new one. Now, to make matter worse, instead of the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele giving the people a long time for them to be able to exchange their old currency for the new one, rather what the CBN Governor and the CBN resorted to doing was a fire brigade approach, giving the people just 3 months to exchange their old notes. As if that was not bad enough, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele did not produce enough naira notes that can substitute for the amount of old notes that the citizens of Nigerians are having in their hand. And of course, like I said, there was a very short notice given to the people to exchange their old notes. Immediately the people had this announcement, there was panic. There was unnecessary hurry. People were so much in a haste, all in a bid to beat the deadline so that the old note will not fade out in their hand. Now, the time frame is one thing. Another thing is, like I said, the currency, the newly designed currency is not enough to substitute for the amount of money. In the first week of implementation of this policy, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele claimed that within 1 or 2 weeks of this announcement, they've been able to mop up a total sum of 2 trillion naira. And according to the record that the CBN themselves brought out, the total number of the total amount of the new note that was printed is a little bit above 500 billion in a country where you have 200 and something million citizens. So I just want to say that Nigerian, we are not illiterate. We have a lot of educated, widely traveled people in this country. If the newly designed naira notes, if the quality was good, if the design was okay, the people would not have issues taking their old notes to the bank in exchange for the newly designed currency. But the newly designed currency that the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele said he did was a terrible job. This particular new currency we're talking about is the worst ever in the history of Nigeria. Just holding the money in your palm for some minutes, the ink will start peeling off. It will start peeling off. A lot of people complain about how the few people that were able to lay their hand on the newly designed currency complain about how the ink was staining their clothes if they put it in their pocket for some time. So Nigerians are not illiterate, we are educated people. If all was well, if everything was good with the newly designed currency, people would have gone long before the end of the deadline to substitute the old note for the new one. But when the newly designed currency came out and few people that were able to lay their hand on it saw that it wasn't a good one, the production of the new currency wasn't something good at all. And that brought a kind of apathy or sluggishness on the citizen to go and exchange their old note for the new one. Now we are in this situation already. What is the way out? The way out, one, is the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, whichever way he intends to do it, has to go and produce more of the new currency, so that even with the little deadline that the people have due to the court injunction or the court order, if we have the new currency sufficient enough within 1 month, all this hardship that the citizens are facing will automatically fade out. But the problem is, the people right now, they are willing to exchange their old notes for the new one, but the new one is not sufficiently in stock. The banks are complaining that when they go to CBN, there is only a little amount of the new currency that they are able to get from CBN in exchange for the old note they have in their hand. And if the commercial banks cannot get the new note, how then will their customers, the ordinary Nigerians, the citizens, be able to get it? Because the first point of contact of every ordinary Nigeria are the commercial banks. They are the customers to this bank. That is where they go to deposit their money. That is where they go to make withdrawals for their money. So the major problem right now is Godwin Emefiele did not print enough of the new currency, and he has mopped up a lot more of the old currency than the new one that they have in stock. So the people are virtually giving out a lot of their money, a large chunk of their money, and now making withdrawal to compensate for the amount of the old note they have deposited in bank is a big problem. And the hardship is something that is unimaginable. As of last week, we heard of so many casualties in the hospital. I learned of a man whose wife was in labor. He rushed out to the hospital, and the hospital management said they are not going to attend to the pregnant woman until payment is made. And that is another thing. The husband of this pregnant woman, he wasn't having cash on him. He tried making transfer, but the network is porous. That is a whole kettle of fish on its own. And these are some of the things that Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor, should have taken into cognizance while trying to come up with this cashless policy. Does Nigeria have a strong internet network? Do we have a reliable internet network? As I speak to you right now, there are still so many states in Nigeria, places in so many states in Nigeria, where there is no telecommunication network at all. As I speak right now, there are places in Nigeria where there is no electricity. If you don't have electricity, how do you intend to power the mass communication mask that will bring network to those areas? And if the mass communication mask or gadgets that is supposed to bring network to that area cannot be powered on, how then will the people in such communities be able to utilize, be able to tap into the cashless policy? So for me, it was just like the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, woke up one morning from a very, very wrong side of his bed and decided to come up with a policy that is not well thought out. Now, get it right for all those of you watching all over the world. Like I said, Nigerians are not gullible people. Nigerians are people that are in tune with modern day's reality. So there is no way that Nigerians would have been objecting what the whole world is currently going with, which is cashless policy, having less cash at hand and having more cash in bank, doing most of our transactions online. So Nigerians are not gullible. There is no way that the citizens will be saying that they want to back what the whole world is currently facing or is currently going with, which is the cashless policy system. But the problem is there are some basic things that some of these countries that are going with the cashless policy and they are doing very well, doing very fine with it. There are some key things that those countries have on ground. Paramount among those things are, like I said, the network. Any country that must practice the cashless policy must make sure that in terms of its internet facility, in terms of its network reliability, it is top notch. Nigeria is not there yet. We have a whole lot of network issue right here in Nigeria. So many times you try to make call, the person you're trying to call is or her phone is on, but on your own end, what the network will be telling you is switched off. By the time you try it the second time, you'll be shocked to see that the same line that is saying switch off right now will start going. Is that the kind of country that should make cashless policy an urgent priority? I don't think so. I honestly do not think so. Nigeria as a country has one of the worst electricity supply in the world. A whole lot of places in Nigeria still doesn't know what it feels like to enjoy 7 hours of uninterrupted electricity. Is that the kind of country that should be using a fire brigade approach, all in a bid to practice a cashless policy? So the way out right now is for the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, to make sure that there is enough of the new currency in the system so that the people going to bank to either make withdrawal or deposit their old note will in return have the new note on their hand to carry on with their day-to-day activities. Because as it is right now, economic activities in the country is almost totally grounded. A lot of people are stranded. A lot of people don't have cash on them. Those that manage to have doesn't even have enough for their day-to-day activities. Now the question is, the solution to this whole problem is just commonsensical. It is not a rocket science. Why is the CBN governor Godwin Emefiele, why is he dragging his foot? What will it cost the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, within a month or 2 weeks to print more of the new note so as to address the shortage of this new note in the economy right now? What will it cost him? Now, rumor, has had it that the whole cashless policy thing is political. When I say political, it is rumored that the policy is aimed at the opposition candidate or some of the presidential candidates that are vying for the position of president in the forthcoming election. According to rumor, that is going around in town, it is believed that when some of these candidates don't have surplus or so much of the cash on them, it will be very difficult for them to engage in vote buying. And if you ask me, there are other ways that the issue of vote buying can be tackled. Trying to tackle vote buying, if the rumor that is going on in town is anything to go by, trying to tackle the issue of vote buying with this kind of fire brigade approach is a pure indictment of two of our intelligence agency. One, the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, the ICPC, and maybe the DSS. And then a total failure, a total indictment of the current administration as well. Because if they had been honest with the whistleblowing policy, the whistleblowing policy is a policy that was brought up by this current administration. And how does it work? If as a citizen you can give the government a reliable, verifiable, accessible link or information or tip-off that can help the authorities to track those that are into one or two fraudulent acts, people that are holding money, people that are into money laundering, and the government pulls through in it via the information or the tip-off you give to them, you have a certain percentage of whatever money the government discover. Now, when this policy came out, everybody hailed it. A lot of the citizens appreciate it. But this policy did not succeed as much as it should because of the dishonesty in the government. When the policy came out, people were blowing whistle, people were giving out information to the authority. But most of the time, the remuneration that is supposed to come with the information they were giving was not being given to the whistleblowers. And aside that, they were exposed to so many risks. In other countries of the world where the whistleblowing policy is being practiced, if you give the authorities an information about a certain illegal act or fraudulent act, especially those that are financially linked, the government tries as much as they can to make sure that they protect your identity so that you don't suffer reprisal attack from the bad guys or from the corporate. But in the case of Nigeria, when someone gives the government a tip-off or blows whistle on a certain person that is into fraudulent things, before you know it, the identity of the person is on the national daily. And these are some of the things that killed the whistleblowing policy. And like I said, if the whistleblowing policy had worked out, there wouldn't have been need for the CBN trying to use a sledgehammer to kill an ant. Because for me, this whole cashless policy thing, not having enough currency in circulation, is as a result of the failure of these agencies. If the EFCC were to be up and doing, it is their work to track people that are hoarding money. It is their work to know people that are moving money all around, especially for the purposes of engaging in vote buying during electioneering. So, to buttress my points, what I just want everyone to know is Nigerians are not gullible people. They believe in the cashless policy, but the implementation is what everyone is totally against. The implementation of the cashless policy is bringing untold hardship on the people, is making life so unbearable for the people in the country right now. And it is more like it is not serving the purpose. It is as if it is backfiring. You say you're bringing up this policy to stop election vote buying during election. Now, why won't people sell their votes now that a week to the election, some people don't even know where their next meal is going to come from? Before the whole of this fire brigade approach thing, people still had some cash in their hand. And at that point, it was still easy to preach to them not to sell their votes. But at this point now, when due to the whole cashless policy thing that is going on, everybody is in pain, people are starving. It is even now that people are prone to selling their votes the more. So the CBN as an institution, its governor Godwin Emefiele, they brought this upon the citizen, and the onion is on them to find the way out. And the way out is not a rocket science. Simple, good and fine. You said you have redesigned it. Yes, it is within your jurisdiction. The Constitution empowers you to do that annually, and you've done it. But please, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, CBN governor, in order to curtail this hardship that the country is experiencing, print more of the new currency, the new Naira currency, so that the people can have access to it, so that the commercial banks can have access to it. And when the commercial banks have access to it, the ordinary Nigerians will have access to it. And within a month, this whole hardship will fade away automatically. Yes, my name is still Adeyemi Adeoye. Stay tuned.